Okay, there's one more thing I want you to get into your notebooks before we take our test. And I just want to take a look at these two-step inequalities, solving and graphing them. Because if you know how to do these two-step inequality problems, if you can solve and graph them, you should be able to do anything that you'll see on the test. So I want to break it down step by step. So you'll see I've got my title of my notebook, two-step inequalities. I have the date. You should also have your page number. This is going to take 2 pages, so left side and right side. And I'll go through each problem. There will be 4 problems total. I'll do 2 of them, and then you'll do 2 of them. So let's look at this first one. So this is a two-step inequality. I have my variable being multiplied by -2, and there's 4 being added to it. So those are going to be 2 steps, 2 things that we need to undo. So I would like you in the column of your paper, or in the margins, copy this, what I have down here. Step 1, step 2, and then graph. So step 1, trying to get the variable by itself. So the first step is to subtract 4 from both sides. Okay, when I do that, these cancel out. I'm trying to make 0 there. And then over here I have -8 minus 4. Put that in your calculator. -8 minus 4 is -12. Copy everything else down. Make sure that when you copy down this in term that you include the negative. A lot of you are forgetting this negative here, the negative in front of the in term, and that changes your whole problem and get you the wrong answer. So make sure when you bring down this term, include the negative if there is one. Alright, so step 2 is to undo the multiplication. So step 1, I'll write it on the margins here. Step 1 was perform inverse operations. So here we had to undo addition, or it might be subtraction here. So we had to undo that addition. The opposite of +4 is -4. So we have to do the same thing to both sides. So that's step 1. The next step, again, we're performing inverse operations, but here we're undoing the multiplication with division. So this is -2 times in. So we're going to undo on step 2, undo the multiplication / division. So here we had multiplication, so we're going to undo that using the inverse operations by dividing by -2. And when you divide by a negative, remember that rule, you have to flip the inequality. So here I'm going to flip the inequality, and I have n by itself over here on the right. -12 divided by -2 is +6. So my answer is 6 is greater than n. So 2 steps to this inequality. Okay, first I had to undo the addition subtraction, right here, -4 minus 4. Second step was to undo multiplication and division. Or division. I had multiplication, so I had to undo it with division. So it's the opposite of times -2 is divide by -2, so I had to do that on both sides. That's how I got my answer. Now, to graph, you should have notes on this. I'm going to make my graph, put 6 here. Alright, this says 6 is greater than n. Since it's greater than, I'm going to have an open circle at 6. And then n is less than 6. So I'm going to shade to the left. So that's what it should look like. Alright, so I'd like for you to copy that into your notebooks. Step 1, Step 2, the answer, the graph, and these notes over here. Step 1 is perform inverse operations, undoing addition, subtraction. Step 2 is again performing inverse operations, this time undoing multiply and divide. Alright, so that's your first example. Down below I have another one for you. You can pause the video and copy it down. But the problem is 20 is greater than or equal to 5 minus 3r. And I have the answer here for you. This is the correct answer. Negative 5 is less than or equal to r. So I solved it. That's the correct answer. But I want you to fill in steps 1 and 2 and see if you get the same answer that I did. And then also I want you to graph this answer just like I did up here. Alright, so pause the video if you need to. Do your work and get it in your notebook. Alright, so those are two-step inequalities with multiplication. That's multiplication. Now let's look at some two-step inequalities with division. So these ones that look like there's a fraction. Alright, so step 1 is again undo addition and subtraction. So here's addition. I have a positive 3, so I'm going to undo that with subtraction. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Those cancel out. So I get negative 10 on the left side. It's greater than g over 2 on the right side. Alright. Step 2 is to undo, multiply, or divide. So I have division here. G is being divided by 2. So I'm going to undo that with multiplication. Times 2, those cancel out. Times 2 here. So step 2, I get negative 20 on the left side. And then G on the right side. I multiplied by a positive number, positive 2, so I don't need to flip my inequality sign. So that's going to stay the same, facing the same direction. Alright, so now it's time to graph. Here's 0, here's negative 20. My graph is going to be open circle at negative 20 because it's greater than. And my G says, my G is less than negative 20, so I'm going to shade to the left. So that's what the graph looks like. So again, it's another two-step inequality, except for instead of having multiply, like we did over here, we had divide this time. The variable is being divided by a number. Alright, but the steps are the same. You still undo the addition and subtraction first, like I did right here. And undo multiply and divide second, like I did right here. Alright, and then graph. So, for your example, the one that you're going to do, negative 6 plus x over 5 is greater than or equal to 10. So I want you to go ahead and solve that just like I did. Step 1, undo the subtraction here, minus 6. Step 2 is to undo the division, divided by 5, using inverse operations. And this is the answer that you should get. X is greater than or equal to 80. And then once you get the answer that I did, go ahead and graph down below. Good luck. Hopefully this helps you on the test.